name's Chris Shepard from Chicago Recording Company. We're located downtown Chicago. We've been in business since 1975. We've got 14 studios, 9 posts, 3 music. We're in Studio 5 today going over some of our equipment. The 201 gates, these are more of a creation tool. I like to use them on effects like, let's say, for instance, a keyboard that's very much padded, and it needs to have something happening to it, adds a beat to it. What I call it is the disco element. I believe every song needs to have a disco element. Crucify me. What you can do here is you can use an external key source. What's great about the key source is it allows you to, let's say the hi-hat. We're going to take that keyboard pad that's just going, we're going to give it beat. So we take the key, insert the hi-hat, and suddenly it's playing the rhythm of the song, ha 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 ha, or da 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 da, or the key source in tandem with the delay. So that way you're doubling up the key source. And a lot of times you have 2 features on them. One is called a gate, and one's called a duck. The gate makes sure that it shuts down when the key source is not active. The duck works just opposite. It shuts down when the key source is active. So in other words, the hi-hat and the keyboard that we're talking about would not open at the same time. Hi-hat strikes, keyboard plays. Maybe that gets confusing. Maybe when the hi-hat plays, the keyboard shuts down and only opens, so it pumps against it.
Okay.
If you can imagine how that would work. This is something that you can play with for a whole day. You know, because you can use it in so many instances. I throw it on my room mics, for instance, and I have it so that way it only opens when the kick and the snare are played. So it adds ga, ga, instead of it just being you know, all the time. It's not open all the time, so it adds to this mush. It adds more power to it. So I definitely use it on my room mics. I definitely use them on toms. So it opens on the toms. A lot of times you'll use the first one on your bottom of the tom. If a tom-tom and you're biking the top and the bottom when you throw out a phase, and you're printing that to one track in the analog world, well, you would have your bottom of your mic and your top of your mic. So that way you're not being false triggered by the cymbals or other things. You can very tightly or very tightly gate the bottom, and it'll open the top mic, so your tom-toms only open when that drum's hit. Really works out great. Takes a little time. The late Phil Bonanno showed me that trick, and we used it for ages, and sometimes we would spend ages getting it right, which you know, today is not really affordable. Most folks will just go in and clean that up with Pro Tools. So I think that today, most of the time, it's in creation. Also keying snares. A lot of times you want to make sure that your reverb going to your effects. Like, let's say you want to put your snare reverb on, right? Well, you don't want the leakage going to the reverb. You only want the snare hit going to the reverb. So you use your send. You'll send it to the gate. You'll gate the send to the snare, so it's just and that'll go to the reverb. So that way the reverb is only exactly opened on that shot. It's a great trick in order to clean up your tracks, creating more space. And not filling all those gaps with mush. A lot of times it's creating panning effects with the gates, where you're making, let's say you're making one in the gate mode and one in the duck mode. Well, then one is opening and one is closing, and so you're getting a panning effect happening through a gate.
Oh, that's really cool.
And then if you throw that out, the one side out of phase, suddenly it's not just here; it's way out here. And so on a keyboard thing that needs to have more space to it, you're not crowding your drum mix in the middle. You're creating a wider thing, and it has a very good stereo effect. Sometimes it can be on the effect of a harmonizer, where you're trying to give a vocal maybe some space. So you gate the harmonizer, and you're giving a beat to the vocal, ha ha ha, or you know, dun 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 dun, on the effect of the vocal, harmonized, and it's panning, and it gives it a real stereo effect. There's just so many endless uses for these gates as a real tool. They do have them in Pro Tools in digital, but I still like the physical ones because I like to turn the knobs on them, and it's kind of like one of these old, yeah, I know you said we weren't going to talk about these 42s, but it's the PCM 42 is also a tool you can spend a good 6 hours on and just play with it. Still a great delay tool that as far as digital delays, being able to hit the repeat capture button, being able to sample with it. It's an amazing box. So I think you could spend it easy 6 hours playing with a box like that and like this if you haven't before, or taking some of those ideas and going at it. I think both of them have great disco elements.